Hey everyone, how's it going? I am here with a brief video update for you. But before I get into the news that I want to share with you, just some backdrop to this situation. In the year 2025, there were 32 deaths of detainees in ICE custody. That is the most that we've seen since the year 2004. So, in over 20 years, this is the highest number that we've had, 32 deaths in the year 2025. If you don't know, there are several ICE detention facilities or centers located around the country. Um, Most are run, even though they are overseen by the federal government, Department of Homeland Security. Most are actually run by private contractors. The big ones are the Geo Group and Core Civic. However, there is a smaller one. It's a minority-owned business, and it's relatively small. It's called Acquisition Logistics. Now, why are they important? Even though they are a smaller company, they actually run the ICE detention center called Camp East Montana. Camp East Montana is actually located alongside Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and it houses about 38 inmates. It's a pretty big detention center, and it's actually pretty close to the border as well. This place has seen a lot of action recently. There are a lot of health issues, a lot of reported human rights violations, or at least neglect cases. And actually, they've been averaging 5 911 calls per week for the past several months in Camp East Montana. So a lot going on there. There's a lot of health crises, a lot of injuries, and some death. And that's actually what I'm going to be talking about for you today. The news coming out is recently a detainee died in ICE custody in Camp East Montana. His name was Geraldo Lunas Campos, and he was actually an immigrant from Cuba. He died. The reports coming out are that ICE was restraining him because he was resisting the guards. So he was resisting guards and they were restraining him. Now, what makes it interesting or newsworthy, as if death in a detainment center is not newsworthy enough, is actually there was at least one eyewitness to this, and it was another detainee. This man's name, Santos Jesus Flores, and he witnessed the guards choking Lunas Campos. He witnessed them choking him, in his own words, to death. Now, what does that mean? He actually heard Lunas Campos say, "I can't breathe." Obviously, he was speaking Spanish, but he was saying, "I can't breathe." And so Flores said that those were his last words, "I can't breathe." And then the guards proceeded to choke him to death. Now, the reports state that the medical examiner this comes from the daughter of Lunas Campos, that they are awaiting toxicology reports, but right now the preliminary cause of death, according to the medical examiner, is asphyxiation and lack of oxygen due to compression on the neck and chest. And the medical examiner has said that most likely they will rule this death a homicide. Now, why is this important? Um, Luna Santos reportedly was a criminal. Okay, he spent time in prison. He was convicted of, I believe it was second-degree murder, so he spent time in prison for that. There are circumstances why he wasn't deported. There were issues with his paperwork on our side, the government's side, getting him out. It's also reported that he was a convicted child SA offender. Okay, by all accounts, by the reports that are coming out, this was a criminal. Okay, this video is not intended to somehow canonize him or make him a martyr in any way, shape, or form. Please do not take that. I myself, I was a victim of childhood SA by a family member, combat wounded veteran okay, from the United States Army, doesn't change the fact that he was an offender. He should have been prosecuted and convicted. He was not. So this is not a video to defend anybody's actions or anything like that, but really, this speaks to what really should be taking place. And this is even the my attacker. He should have been prosecuted and convicted. In other words, due process should have been followed. And the reason this is such a big deal about Lunas Campos is because of what took place in that detention center. Now, I want to tell you, we're not a dictatorship in America. We're not like Cuba or Venezuela or Iraq under Saddam Hussein. That's not us. Our police officers and our prison guards are not judge, jury, and executioner. We have due process in this country. And the due process is not just for people who are innocent, due process is also for criminals to ensure that they get a fair trial, that they get their day in court. And for criminals, that if they've committed a crime, that they are adequately prosecuted and convicted of that crime, and then they receive an appropriate sentence. And I just want to tell you, if those words, "I can't breathe," if they sound familiar to you, that's what George Floyd said. Those were his last words: "I can't breathe." And after the George Floyd incident, we actually saw a bunch of revamping of what are appropriate restraints, what are appropriate holds, and kneeling down on someone's neck or choke holds, things like that, pressing down on their chest for long periods of time. These things actually were determined to not be effective restraints, and actually were dangerous restraints. And so they have been, not approved for use in prison settings and in mental health settings and by law enforcement and things like that because of this. So this is a big issue, people, that regardless of what this person deserved, criminally speaking, um, our prisons are not there to kill prisoners. Our prisons and our detention centers and our jails and holding facilities, they're actually there for safety, not just to keep the public safe from these people, but also to keep these people who are in them safe, either from themselves so that they can't commit suicide, or safe from other inmates as well. And we actually know that there have been deaths in ICE detention, both from suicides and death from other detainees. Now, I think part of the problem is that they are contracting out the guarding of these detention centers to private contractors like the Geo Group, or like this, small acquisition logistics. And of course, this brings back to my mind things that I heard from combat vets in Iraq when they were dealing with Blackwater, which was basically a mercenary group. They're not governed by the same regulations that our own government employees or our own soldiers or our own guards are. And we know that they are not held to the same standards of behavior. We know that they get away with a lot of things that, an American soldier or a federal agent would not be allowed to get away with. And it's actually becoming more and more apparent that this is happening. And I just want to tell you, it's not just reports of this happening. Even some of these guards themselves are pleading guilty. We have at least one guard who pled guilty. He said, "Yeah, I did commit SA against a detainee multiple times," and that was his own admission. And so I think that we've got a serious problem in America, and it doesn't matter the documentation status or the citizenship status of these people. They still are supposed to be afforded safety, and they're still supposed to be afforded due process and a fair trial or a fair hearing of their situation. And so I think that, this is really important, and we really need to revamp the way we do these things. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some immigration reform. I'm not saying anything like that. And I'm also not defending illegal action. But What I am saying is this: we need common sense laws, but we also need accountability on these detention facilities, on ICE, and on these private contractors. And we need to get away from this because more people will die. And ultimately, the blood is going to be on our hands because we allowed this to happen. So I hope that you take these words to heart. I hope that you heed this and that you're praying for our country. And please just pray. Pray for a movement of God and pray for justice to be done because it's my concern that injustice will continue to reign. And that is not what America was founded upon, and that is not who we are. We can do better than this. Take care. God bless.